with Brasilia.
Thank you.
Brazil.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We have been told that the distinguished ambassador of India have formulated a request to open the site for the discussion. And as to follow the same procedure that yesterday, I wonder if it's better to listen to the ambassador before introducing my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I await your approval to... Thank you, Madam Chair. It would also be helpful if we then put the amendments on the screen. I will continue while they're being put. Madam Chair, in this case, we are dealing with a property with a site inscription that goes back to 1987. As part of the draft decision, we have what I would think is an unusual recommendation, which is to halt the ongoing consultation process and establish an intersectoral official working group. This is unusual. I'm in the happy position of being able to say that I think we should have the consultative process. I think that's the spirit. I think that's the wish of the Committee of Civil Society, which the government of Brazil has been undertaking, and why would we want to put in place as an alternative an official working group? So that's really the first amendment. Secondly is not strictly semantic, but I think we need to be polite and request state parties, unless we have reasons for not doing so, and not urge them. Thirdly, the entire, there is a conflict here between what the World Heritage Convention can and should do and the sovereign rights, the sovereign duties, the sovereign responsibilities that devolve onto elected governments, to governments and state parties. And I think that there is a conflict here. And if we go down, we would actually see that. So one, why do we want to replace the ongoing consultation process with some kind of official closed door working group, if that is the intention? Why don't we just stick with the original? Secondly, if you go further down, right, prior to approval and implementation, are we not bringing ourselves into positions of authority that do not naturally devolve on us? So the amendment which is there is something that would come into force if there is something that alters or threatens the outstanding universal value of the property. Similarly, further down, Madam Chair, again, the characteristics, the approved heights and each scale, we're getting into a level of micromanagement that is not only not warranted, but which the convention and its arms are not capable of carrying out. So that's the limited point, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to World Heritage Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. Brazil invited a reactive monitoring mission requested by the World Heritage Committee last year to evaluate the state of conservation of the property, in particular on developments referred to in previous sub-report, as well as to discuss the decision-making process and the articulation of the regulation between local, federal, and national authorities responsible for the protection of the urbanism in Brasilia and Plan Piloto, and the planning of ongoing processes to regulate the development of the extensive territory of Brasilia, on which there are today 30 cities. Next slide, please. The expert concluded with a list of recommendations of legislative and regulatory frameworks as requested, according to the paragraph 172 of the operational guidelines, to submit the technical information of the transformation of the area occupied by the new stadium according to the requisites set up by FIFA. I would like to recall that in the current issues, the report stated very clearly that, in fact, there are 4 ongoing regulation processes. when Lucio Costa, the author of the main plan Piloto Brasilia, stated all his philosophy in one of the, let's say, the testimony of the principle of the modern doctrine, was the same year that the site was inscribed on the World Heritage List. That means in 1987. Since that moment, ICOMOS referred, and I will pass later the floor to ICOMOS, ICOMOS referred that the regulations should take into account when preparing the conservation plan and the management plan for the city. Today, as we stated in the report, there are a conservation plan for the urban complex, a land management master plan, a land and used plan of occupation of the metropolis, and a fourth one, which is a plan director of the territorial planning of the federal district. As you may recall as well, in 2001, the World Heritage Committee requested a reactive monitoring mission. Unfortunately, since that moment, not all the regulations were in place and not all the measures were correctly implemented. That's why is our reading of the mission report that it could be very important for the state party to take all the possible measures to coordinate and to better articulate all the regulations, a different kind of framework that up to date were considered important but create as well some fragmentation in the decision-making process. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and ICOMOS want to take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to ICOMOS. I would like you to be a little bit more brief because we are a little bit late. We stopped so much on civil. ICOMOS, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS notes the limited progress that has been made in implementing the recommendations made by the last reactive monitoring mission to the property and from the World Heritage Committee decisions. This limited progress has further exacerbated conditions that have been previously highlighted, for which strong measures are imperative. These measures are pointed out in the SOC report in front of you. The attributes that convey the outstanding universal value of this property reside largely on the safeguarding of the vision as realized in the design and physical and spatial attributes expressed by Lucio Costa in his conception of the Plano Piloto of Brasilia. ICOMOS recognizes the dynamic nature of the city, but considers that change needs to be within the parameters of protection of the conditions of OUV that warranted inscription on the list. We are willing to support and assist the state party through our scientific national committees in reviewing the existing planning tools and mechanisms. We're also willing to help them, assist them in review the development of projects so that adequate solutions can be identified prior to implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like that we put the decision with amendments on the screen. Germany, floor is yours.